So for this battle report, I have a bit of a curveball from the expected. The intention was to have the winner from the Trollbloods Facebook group poll square off against the winner from the Signar Facebook group poll, but my Signar army is currently cooling its hills somewhere in the Illinois postal system, and I needed to make a change on what we're going to play against here. I still want to showcase the Trollbloods winner, and it just means that the Signar one will be in the next video, hoping that all that stuff arrives by then. In order to pull it out, I was reading a Knights Machine article recently, and they were talking about some of the legacy or older Khador themes, and I haven't played Karchev in quite some time, so I decided to dust him off and pit battle group against battle group. So the battle group for Karchev here is basically the same from the Knights Machine article, and this is the setup that I've been running for quite some time with my Jaws of the Wolf lists. I just like the versatility that it brings. You get the Juggernaut to hit things hard that aren't on super huge bases, and the Marauders to help you out with the huge base issue. Devastators are hard to crack as well, so I was really surprised and happy to see that I'm not the only player who likes bringing this type of battle group. I did bring a Greylord Adjunct in here because Karchev's going to have one of his upkeeps up at all times anyways, whether it's battle charged or Road to War. So having him in here is essentially the same as having a Forge Seer, but it's just less clunky. And it gives you a nice little solo with a spray that can run around too. Not that the Forge Seer isn't bad at doing things, but I did include one for a little bit of focus economy. The Mad Dog in this list is just here for points economy, and it's not bad to have something that can run off and score a zone that the battle group doesn't have to deal with so much. The Mad Dog's kind of disposable because I'm really just bringing it so I can get Sorsha. The Eliminators in this list, I feel like having two is pretty important since they can go where they want to, contest zones relevantly, and deal with support that the battle group can't be bothered with. And that's kind of the same reason for Yuri in here. He's mobile, not encumbered by much, and packs a ton of punch. I did bring the Widowmaker unit in here just because I do feel like they're meta relevant, and I wouldn't slight anyone for wanting to bring Widowmaker Marksman. I think if I were building this list for looking at more of a serious tournament pairing, I would definitely want to bring like a full sniper boat in here because Swift Hunter is not irrelevant when you're talking about trying to protect yourself from Vengeance threat ranges. You're looking at popping 5 bodies a turn, and that can really do a lot of work to some of those Flames pairings out there that are running around. But that's kind of the list. There's a lot of flexibility in how you build your Jaws of the Wolf list, especially when it comes to those requisition points and other random things you put in. I do think that the Cossite Woodsmen have a lot of use here with how much support people seem to be bringing these days, but there's really no wrong way to build Jaws these days, I think. For the Doomshaper list, we're bringing him in Storm of the North. Now, up front, there's really no great benefit to bringing Doomshaper in Storm of the North. The snowdrifts don't turn on the Earthborn since he's immune to cold, and we only have one spell that we would really want to upkeep, and only one Northkin model we'd really want that on. So the real benefit we get out of taking Storm of the North is access to the Northkin Bear Handlers. Now, this unit is pricey, but it can corral your opponent's movement quite a bit across the table with them threatening so far off the side if you choose to ambush them, and whatever they connect with, they should be able to do a lot of work, if not just obliterate whatever they go into. In terms of the battle group, we're taking a pretty historical one here. I'm kind of reaching back into those Runes of War days, and mostly because the battle group is just solid and full of utility. You get a lot of great effects out of them. The Earthborn can threat a long distance, which the list does have a little bit more of an issue with, which is why we bring in Axer. I think one of your big choices here is switching the Axer for maybe a second unit of Bear Handlers, but that's where or whatever you feel like. I mean, the Axer, I think, is probably the wiggle room in here, but I like having access to the extra beasts, and having increased threat range is really important to me because I would rather deliver the battle group as the alpha with Doomshaper feeding aggressively than I would run the battle group up and just try to be a catcher's mitt for my opponent. So That's kind of where I'm at with this. It's a runes battle group with the brawler added in for some additional threat. In terms of how the list is going to end up playing out, we're just bricking as much as we can to take advantage of Doomshaper's implacability feat and the zero cost animus scroll that he has. And I think that Stranglehold is going to be one that we're going to be utilizing a lot in here to try and balance the scales of Khador having a lot more cheap and effective jacks than with us only having 4 heavies that are going to struggle to make it through the long game. So both Doomshaper and Karchev picked the treasure chest objective for this one. It's just really handy when you have so few attacks, so you need them to matter a bunch. Or, well, you can re-roll the one that you need that matters a bunch. So that's where those are at least. But for Doomshaper, just opening up the turn, it's all about positioning and trying to leverage the long threat ranges we have to make sure that Karchev's slower battle group can't get to us. As long as we don't give up road to war targets, we should be able to out-threat a lot of the jacks that Karchev is bringing along. We've got access to Rush from the Axer, and the Earthborn has some speed bumps to it as well. So it's really just trying to get everything up as far as we can. I end up putting a couple rushes out on the war beasts that I want up further, like Mulg and the Mauler, and then I get admonition out on the Brawler, and that's just going to end up staying on him for the whole game, and he's the only Northkin war beast that I've got in here, so he's going to have that upkept for free. Now the Creelstone I'm being really conservative with because those Widowmakers will turn them into road to war targets, and I really don't want to end up losing a war beast just because I decided to hang a Creelstone dude outside of line of sight, I guess, or outside of blocked line of sight, however I want to word that. We do awaken the stone. I don't put up the stone's aura, so I think right now it's sitting on 2. For Karchev's first turn, I'm really just needing to move up my whole battle group and just try to respect the Trollblood threat ranges as much as I can. That Earthborn's going to be winging out pretty far, so I need to prepare for that. And part of the thing I do here is my Widowmakers aren't going to be extremely impactful, at least for the most part, so they're going to be running kind of like a blocking, just as a jam unit, really. There just isn't enough single wound stuff that I'll be able to get to, and with this layered approach, I can kind of just have the front 2 jamming, and then the back 2 can be relevant later, or jam further if they don't get any good open shots. Now, unfortunately, during this one, I had the battery run out. So, good news is I didn't get too far before I realized it was a problem, at least up until the end of this turn. So this is a still from how Karchev had moved up. You can see I've got the Eliminators kind of jumping over the battle group so they can kind of take off and do whatever they need to. I'm trying to be cognizant of the bears that could come in here. So you can see that Yuri is in front of the house, but in a way where if the bears come in to try and take him out to protect their objective, they're going to be a little bit further disconnected from the middle of the table, which is where I expect to be by the time this all comes down, and just kind of ignore them or send off one jack to deal with them. Otherwise, I leave him with a line to the objective so he can get into it, and the rest of it is just moving everything up and making sure that the Mad Dog can go in to score my friendly zone if he needs to. That's really what his goal is here. So for Doomshaper's second turn, I'm still not really interested in trying to engage right now. I'm not quite in threat range of anything because Karchev did a pretty good job of staying out of mine. So I just get to play a little bit more conservatively this turn and not move anything really. I'm just kind of curving my war beasts around so they're barely out of the normal threat because again here I'm trying to not give up any road to war targets. So Valka ends up running off towards the objective. This way, if Yuri decides to come into it, I've got him in a place where he should be able to countercharge without any issues. And Doomshaper wants to take up residence in this trench. Not that it's a big deal, but the Widowmakers could plink a couple damage here, and I am getting Doomshaper pretty close into the mix, just to make sure that my feat is relevant and I can get everything out later that I need to. I just, I've got that 6-inch bubble of being able to get out all the animi that I care about, whether it's rush or rage, and just having him up further is going to be helpful for me, and that forest is really keeping everything over here pretty safe also. Karchev's list has kind of got to wrap around it, and it's a little bit easier for me to split my battle group than it is for Karchev to do to his, especially with the type of spells that he's going to be putting up. So for the Earthborn and Blitzer Brawler combo, I'm not quite sure what to do with them, and you'll see me kind of take liberty in kind of mixing things around because I didn't want to make just bad activations, and I feel like the Earthborn and the Brawler up top kind of made a bad activation with how they ended up setting themselves up. I realized as I was moving the Creelstone that I kind of need to bend them around the other way too because those Widowmakers are doing their job well and causing problems for being able to get into spots to trigger Road to War, and I really don't want that to happen. Because I've gone to great pains to make sure that I've not left myself in Road to War. Well, no, just regular range, but I have left myself into Road to War range. So I end up flipping things around a little bit here. The Brawler, I end up... Yeah, like I said, this is just a funky thing for me. The Brawler I end up getting out because I can throw some extra Fury just to hit both these Widowmakers. If I can get 2 of them right away, then it's not something that it's something that I need to worry about less, like having just the 2 of them there. I need to boost each one of these, and if they connect, they just paste them. So the Brawler does a pretty decent job of grabbing both the Widowmakers. I do have to buy and boost another one because it didn't quite work out. But I do get that one. And then the Earthborn's going to wrap around just to try and... my original hope was to block line of sight, but I think he's just going to exist here close to the forest so he can get his speed bonus in case he needs it next turn. But I guess with the way things are looking right now, he probably isn't ever going to need it based on how close everything is. Also, I don't feat this turn. I'm waiting for that one. So Karchev didn't get to take much of any advantage out of countercharge, which isn't super shocking, but I'm probably going to be dropping it soon anyways. I need to kind of rearrange my front line here, so the Chaosi Eliminators are kind of setting up for when the Bears come in. I have a feeling they're going to come after my objective. And then the Devastator runs forward because it's going to be difficult to remove, and that's kind of what I'm going to use to start some of these peace trades. And I figure it might take 1 or 2 Trollblood Heavies with Rage and the Stone Aura to grab that. Neither the Brawler nor the Earthborn should be able to take it out on its own, but my Brawler does opt to use Admonition since the Devastator moved up. I could have used it when the Eliminator happened, but I just wasn't thinking about it. And the reason being is that I've noticed that there's a way that I can get my Widowmakers to grab a shot at one of the one of the Stone Scribes. So there will be a Road to War trigger somewhere, and it's probably going to be the Juggernaut that's going to go after the Earthborn now because the Brawler was in danger, and that's the one I would have preferred to grab with them having just a higher POW and and that's really it, because every one bit of strength or POW against this list matters, since my armor's high, but the Trollblood's hitting power can actually get pretty close to meeting that, so just losing one's a big deal. Karchev gets a little bit more brave. I think when the turn transition ended up happening and I ran out of battery, you saw me kind of charge Karchev up, but I had realized after I'd done that I had kind of left him in charge range of something else, so I had just walked him up instead of charging. But now Karchev is now over the hedge, and the Widowmakers are positioning to try and grab shots at these Creel Warriors. Or not Creel Warriors, the Stone Scribes. I only get one shot in. I can't quite bend the other one around, so I roll and miss, and it's pretty important that I do this, so I use the treasure chest reroll to grab that Stone Scribe, which kind of grabbing any of these right now is really good for me, because it's going to shrink the aura for the buff and makes it so that there could be a chance that they're not going to be able to get that armor bonus, and I'm a big fan of them not having that, because my highest POW is getting pretty close to dice -1 when they're under the stone. Not that I'm going to be taking the Earthborn out of the stone here, but it's every little bit counts. Plus, we finally get this Juggernaut in. Sorsha had Boundless charged it, and then just kind of stayed put behind the hedge. I know it's kind of hard to see where she's at right now because all the jacks are in the way, but he comes in and connects, and we're at dice -1 with the Earthborn having the bonus from the stone. Thankfully, there's not an obstacle hanging around here, as this would make taking out the Earthborn a lot more difficult. So we end up connecting pretty easily, and we do a bunch of damage with just the initials first, and we'll just keep buying until hopefully this thing dies. At least that's my hope. I don't think when I was playing on the Doomshaper side, I realized that the Road to War threat was real, and tried to make things as easy or try to make it as difficult as I could. But when I was reconfiguring the way that the Brawler and the Earthborn were set up, I didn't really do it in a good way to make sure that I couldn't give up that target. So it's always weird playing against yourself when you change those sides and you see things in a different fashion. It's just an interesting perspective on whatever, because Doomshaper felt like everything was fine, but as soon as you flip over to that Khador side, you can kind of see, well, here's my opportunity to do this. And my opportunity isn't completely wasted, but it kind of is, because I come up short with the damage on the Earthborn, which is super unfortunate, because with Doomshaper having Field Marshal hyper regen, it just means that Earthborn is going to be back to fully functional more likely than not, and he won't. I really would have liked to have taken out a heavy here, especially since it would have triggered another Road to War, and I could have gotten another Jack into possibly Mulg or the Earthborn, but it is what it is. I probably could have made... I don't know if a Hermit in this list would have been great. I think it's nice to have when you've got someone like Karchev who's hard to kill, but I think that the list is fine with what it's got in it. I don't think you need to squeeze a Hermit in everywhere just to get that armor swing. You'll see that on the Yuri side, it's a little shifty of me, because my intention with moving Valka up here was to make sure that I could get a counter charge off if Yuri came in on the objective, and it seems like I kind of miscalculated, and not so much miscalculated, it just straight up didn't measure it, and was just fairly short from the 6 inches that Valka needed for the counter charge. So Yuri comes in and crashes onto the objective, but only ends up doing or leaves it on 4 boxes, I think. So the Mad Dog's taking one for the team and body blocking the objective so that the Bears don't just come in and grab it. And that scores Karchev 1 point right off the bat. Valka decides to open up the turn early and go in for a charge on Yuri like he would have liked to have done last turn, and comes up and kills him. I actually had to go look up Yuri's stats because the roll on Valka wasn't the most impressive thing in the universe, but Arm 14 with 8 boxes is pretty pretty much nail in the coffin for him. I think it actually just exactly killed him because I rolled 10 and he had 8 boxes, so it wasn't too difficult. So then I back up and I'm like, Brian, you forgot to ambush your bears. I also forgot to put down any whelps for that Earthborn, so that's I think that's one of the reasons why I like pulled off from trolls for a little while, was that I kept on forgetting to put out whelps or any ambush things, and now we're correcting that. My mad dog is a little back heavy because of the sweet trencher busting that he's got going on, so he tips over a bit. But the bears are hoping that they can just actually get him off the table. So they charge in, and I leave the bottom bear, the one that's on all fours. That one is in range for the objective, but we're going to start with the bear handler first, and then we'll go on to the top bear that's only got melee to the mad dog. And mad dogs don't have like the best survivability against these bears. We're doing pretty decent damage, and our dice rolls are actually helping out quite a bit as well. So the one bear is enough between the bear and the bear handler. They're enough to grab the mad dog to the box, I think. I'm pretty sure it was to the box, or at least by one. So now the other bear can divert its attention into the objective, which would be nice to just kind of close the gap on Karchev a little here, even though I think that scenario pressure isn't going to be a real big thing based on the style of armies that we're playing. And I think we do enough damage to this one to also leave it on 4, so we've got both our objectives are pretty damaged, and I think it's... Yeah, Karchev's used the Puppet Master ability for his, so it's not a big deal. But Doomshaper hasn't used theirs yet. So I think there I was just checking the wording on hyper regen just to see when it actually happened to make sure I didn't miss it. But since it happens in the activation, I don't need to worry about like backtracking anything and going all screwy on that again. The stone, I'm pretty sure by now that it's full up, so it moves up and then puts up +1 strength and +2 armor, and then does the, God, what is it? It's the ability that lets it top off. I forget what it was called. Whatever. I'm sure I'll think of it in like 5 seconds. But Doomshaper doesn't really have a ton that he wants to do here. I'm getting a little... Well, I guess he does have more to do than what he's ever wanted to do before. He starts out his turn by feeding, and also uses the... I think it's the something of Trokal. This is the one where Animi can get used for free. It's either that or the Yolandi one. I can't keep the names straight with these. I don't play Doomshaper 3 enough to really keep them down. But we're putting up the one that lets Animi go out for free. And this is another good reason to have an Axer, because you can rush yourself and charge for free. It just puts so much efficiency on Axers, and that is quite nice. We end up throwing a Stranglehold at the Extreme Juggernaut that's hanging out there, and we do enough damage to it to be able to, well, I'm not enough, we just straight up just do damage to it. So that one's Stranglehold. It's not something we really need to worry too much about for now. I think on the Karchev side, I kind of had this idea of, let me just present all the jacks and just see what happens afterwards in terms of like, can 4 troll heavies really take care of everything. And I think if the Earthborn went down, probably would have been a decent plan. But now with all of them there and all of them in range and Stranglehold on top of that, Doomshaper can kind of even the odds by making it so that some of the jacks don't actually get to really do anything. So the whole fun rush and charge thing is what we end up doing with the Axer up here. And we boost the first attack into a Chaosi Eliminator, and that ends up not connecting. So I boost the next attack into the other Chaosi Eliminator, because we Thresher here, of course. And that one hits, and the way that the damage works out is he just crushes her without having to roll the dice, especially with the stone up. I think if it was the stone wasn't up, I needed to roll, and if it was, I don't. So he was in the stone, and now we've got a Widowmaker that we're going to boost against, and that one ends up coming up just a little bit short, and it comes up short on the last one too. And at this point, I realize that I have forgotten about the second part of Doomshaper's feat, where all of my melee attack rolls are automatically boosted. So I end up going back and I just used the 3 Fury that's on the Axer to just buy extra attacks against the things that I'm in melee with. So you can see here, I'm like, oh yeah, let's take them off and do this the real way. So we swing into the Eliminator, and she goes down. And then we're going into the Widowmaker, and that one takes a damp too. And then the last one, we end up just connecting. I don't know. I think I might have been moving a little too fast after I realized that, because that roll didn't look like it should have hit. Maybe I was just moving too fast or something. So now that that problem's dealt with, it's not that it's really a problem. It just means that Road to War isn't going to be a big deal anymore. Not that I think it's a big deal, period, but just having those things gone so I can focus more on the battle group is nice. It just gives the Axer something nice to do, or just something to do, period, because going into a Devastator probably isn't going to work too well for him. We end up going with the Earthborn next, and I don't think I have... Yeah, I did not rage him. I think during Doomshaper's turn, we end up raging Mulg, and then maybe I rushed the Mauler. I'm not 100% sure which went where, but I do have to boost every shot that I take into... Well, I boost every damage roll because I'm dice off 4, and when you're looking at that, I'd rather have my initials... it'd be 2 boosted damage rolls on the initials, and then 1 bot attack with a boost there too. And with that, I end up doing a decent chunk of damage. I end up taking out the... I think... I don't take out anything, to be honest with you, based on the way that grid looks. Now I've done it. So I took out his Cortex and the movement. So it's still a little bit dangerous, especially since the Earthborn doesn't have a ton of damage left. A ton of health left. So with the feet up, it shouldn't be a huge issue. But it's still a little bit dangerous with that 1 POW 19 attack that comes out of it. So next up, the Brawler goes. And I would have liked to have had Rage on this one just to get some dice damage shots in on the Juggernaut. But I also like the Devastators sitting there. And I think at dice -6, it's not really worth doing anything. So I just take both my initials into the Juggernaut, which ends up pulling it off the table. And I know that I'm going to go hot on Fury this turn, so I decide to just ignore the Devastator, which is one of the fun things you can do if someone's jamming you with Devastators. If they happen to give you another Jack, just don't pay attention to it, because the chances are the Devastator's not going to do enough of anything damage-wise. But Karchev still hasn't used the feat, so that can be... that could help get it somewhere, but for the most part, I'm not going to be looking at spending a bunch of Fury to try and just do half the boxes to a Devastator. There's really no point for me. Next up, Battle Charged is still up for Karchev, I think. No, it's not. It's not up anymore. He's got Road to War up, so that's not a non-issue. I was thinking about some other game I played where Valka went in. But Mulg ends up being the first to charge, and we go into one of the Marauders, and on my initial, I end up critting. So I decide that I am going to slam it because it's just going to bump into the other Marauder and then still be within reach for the club. And I've got my fist that can go into the Devastator next to me, so it's not like I'm wasting the initial or anything like that. And the first whack against that Marauder does a ton of damage, and they're both knocked down now. So with Stranglehold combined with Knockdown, we're able to manage the damage output from the heavies from the Karchev side quite a bit. And in terms of collateral damage, we're doing a ton of work there too. With Rage and the Stone, those both modify Strength, so I think Mulg ends up swinging around at POW 17 or POW 16, or I mean Strength 16 or 17, so he does quite a bit of work there. We end up crushing again with the fist on the Devastator. Not a ton of damage done there, even though we're still, I think, dice -3 or something like that on its dice. I can't remember. Yeah, POW 17 on the fist, so it's dice -2. After you factor in Rage and the Stone. So now I'm just buying attacks on the Marauder. Even though it's knocked down, I still have to worry about Jumpstart, and I don't want to just randomly lose Mulg to attacks from Marauders. with the 1 or 2 attacks that I needed to take into the Marauder, I'm now able to put some extra work into the Devastator, and I would like to get it out of there just so that the Dire Troll Mauler can go do some things. If now that we've kind of moved things around a bit, you can see that the Dire Troll Mauler's kind of like body blocked by a Chaosy Eliminator. I probably could have moved Mulg over, or not Mulg, but Doomshaper over there to try and deal with it, but at Def 17, even with a couple boosts, I might still have some issues, and I did want to camp some focus on Doomshaper just in case there was a weird Road to War vector that I might have missed or something. So that's important to know, is that he's camping 3 Fury total right now. Mulg's just going to use his whole stack into that Devastator in hopes that he can crack it. With swinging at POW 22 or something like that, it's not too difficult for him to do that with all the Fury sitting there. So we ripped that off the table too. So I think we ripped off 2 heavies right now, maybe 3. Yeah, 3 heavies, I think. Yeah, 3 heavies. Pretty crazy. It's always interesting when you look at the battle group mix-up or matchup versus Warmachine and Hordes, because especially on the Trolls side, you get so few heavies, but they end up putting out a lot of work. And it gets a little bit nerve-wracking when you're looking at this big, massive Warmachine battle group, but you can do some work with all those buffs. The Dire Troll Mauler ends up just deciding to trample over the Chaosy Eliminator, and because I don't have any other options, I'm going to lose some attacks because I wanted to charge the Juggernaut that was there, and I am charging the Stranglehold one, so it's kind of it's not really the most efficient thing in the universe to do, but I didn't expect to just trivially take out the Devastator. I was expecting to have to use the Mauler to do it, and while I'm at it, I would rather take out the Juggernaut with the POW 19 axe than try to have to deal with the Marauder that's just kind of derping around over there, knocked down, and only swinging at POW 16. So we have Rage up on the Mauler because they can do it for free. So he tramples and then rages. So it doesn't take a lot of effort to kill. I guess it does take effort just because the slam cost Fury, but he got there. So no points are scored on either side, so it's still 1-1. And Karchev's kind of in a tough spot. The Devastator and the Marauder are both kind of pillow-fisted in terms of trying to crack Arm 20 heavies, and all 4 of those are still on the table, so I'm not too yippy about the situation that I've put myself into here. Not being able to take that Earthborn out and then go into another heavy really rained on Karchev's parade. But as I'm going through things, I forget. Not that I forgot. I mean, I know it was there, but it wasn't something that was in my head. Was that Karchev's spray has knockdown? Just he hits, he knocks you down. And Doomshaper didn't put up implacability, so I don't know if it's completely a mistake that I didn't put up. I mean, it probably is more of a mistake that I didn't put up implacabilities to stop the knockdown. But Karchev has a pretty nice line to knock down both Mulg and the Mauler. But what I'd like to do here is try and find a way to trigger Road to War, because I've got the distance, I believe, to get onto Doomshaper. And with 3 camp and a fully loaded heavy, it's not looking super great. But this is another good guy gimme moment where I haven't allocated anything, and now I think just now I've figured out this Road to War spray knockdown business that I'm gonna go with. So I end up backtracking a little bit to throw some focus out and do jump. Well, yeah, I do jump start, and I boosted the hit on both Mulg and the Mauler here. And I don't really care too much about the damage. I do miss my Chaosy Eliminator for what it's worth. And as I said, that I do 2 damage or 4 damage or something like that to the Mauler, so I have to end up marking it. So maybe I already have put the focus out. Maybe I was just moving too fast and didn't notice it. So now we're just rolling on Mulg, and no damage there, but both of them are knocked down. So that means that if the Eliminator gets out of the way, the Marauder has a nice wide open channel to go into Doomshaper on. The angle isn't quite right here, so the other thing that I needed to do with getting Karchev to where he's at is make sure that the Road to War trigger can come up from one of the Stone Scribes. I did feat already, or not feat already, but I just feated with Karchev, so we've got that going on for us too. The Eliminator hits and kills easy. I'm not too worried about trying to like sidestep and grab another one. The goal here is just to kind of forward along, getting a Marauder onto Doomshaper. The Forge Seer moves up and tops off the Marauder, and then Sorsha comes up and Boundless charges it as well. So we've got the best possible Marauder that we could put on to Doomshaper right now, and there's not much else to kind of set up here. I go back and forth and make sure that everything's set well. The next thing I do is probably like the dumbest thing that I possibly could have done. I was like, oh well, the Earthborn doesn't have a ton of boxes left, so I can just charge this Devastator in, and then I'll be able to take away a transfer target or something for Doomshaper. And I end up, I think I like didn't count the boxes quite right here, and he should have had one left after that first initial hit instead of what he had. So I went back and healed it up. I guess I won't know whether I killed it on the first hit or not, but the Earthborn ends up surviving it, and then we go in for the next attack. We're swinging at dice off 4 here, and we do enough, I guess, or barely enough to kill it. I'm not sure. So this is where, like, it's been some time since I've played a Hordes caster, and I don't just reave the fury that comes off of it. So we're going to live in a world where I didn't kill the Earthborn and didn't act like a big dummy and give Doomshaper transfers to live for forever. So you can see I missed it here. So we're sending in the Marauder now with his free charge and the free, I forget the rules sometimes. And I know this makes me look like a doofus, but the gist is, like, when you're playing against yourself, I think it's just easier to forget these things. And meanwhile, while this is going on, you can also see the Marauder is just crapping himself in terms of doing damage to Doomshaper. So I can't seem to hit him because he's 13. All I need is a 6. So I'm just like, I'm not going to boost any of these. I'm just going to go for it. And of all the hits all the shots that he takes, he only gets 1 or 2 of them to connect. The big hit, Doomshaper ends up transferring, and where he transfers it to is immaterial. I think we just put it on the Brawler and it would be fine. I checked the feat because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just War Beasts for Doomshaper, it was Battle Group as well, and it is Battle Group models, so he ends up taking that first hit of 3 damage and not taking anything. So Doomshaper, after taking a Marauder to the face, is completely fine. So even if I had Reave the Fury, the same outcome would have happened. So Doomshaper, for a couple of reasons, gets a new lease on life and is able to rain Blue Mountain Terror on Karchev. So the goal here is to just try and take Karchev off the table. We've got a potential of 2, maybe 3 heavies that can get in on Karchev right now. I don't think Mulg can really wrap around that way, but the Fury management here is a little screwbally because, again, I could have dropped a Whelp somewhere along the line and just didn't. Well, I guess it wouldn't have mattered so much because it would have been from the Earthborn, and there's nothing really over there that needs it. So Mulg ends up frenzying into the Mauler. The Axer, surprisingly enough, passes his threshold check, but Mulg does a ton of damage to the Dire Troll Mauler and ends up taking out, I think, 2 different aspects on it. It was not the greatest thing in the universe, but with hyper regen, it's not a huge deal, and Doomshaper's got more than enough fury to be able to heal it up when he activates, so I'm not too worried about it. You know, Mulg didn't one-shot him, so I can be thankful for that, even though it looked like he really, really, really wanted to. And we didn't roll any crits. I'm not sure how crits work when you're frenzying. I'm pretty sure that you still get to choose whether you do it or not. You don't just have to auto do it, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Not often do I frenzy into something that I have to worry about these on, but the stone just moves up so it can apply the strength buff. We're going to try and get every little buff we can get into Karchev with him being armor 21 with the unyielding bonus, so we want to make sure we can get all that. So Doomshaper decides to activate, and there's no more scroll things that I can do that are really impactful here. I just end up putting enough fury out to heal the Mauler back up to get it functional again. I was trying to think of ways that I could maybe figure something out to put some extra damage into Karchev, but based on where I'm sitting, there's not really much in the way that I can do to change anything that's going on with him. We end up moving the scroll guy too because he's gotta be with us. Not right now at least, but just in spirit. So I'm just trying to make sure that I've got everything worked out here the way that I need to. I do end up having, I believe I have the range to rush the brawler. So if with the Mauler needing to both stand up and charge, I want to make sure that I've got the insurance of having the brawler to go in if the Mauler comes up short. So I think we also probably raged our own Mauler, so we didn't have to worry about him doing it. So we forced to stand up, forced to charge, and go in with, I think it's dice -1 for that. So we do a ton of damage. I just factor in the Karchev's camping on 2, so we take off 5 for that right away. And with the second initial, we take off another 5, and Karchev only ends up taking 2 damage off that one. So now we're free to buy attacks and not have to worry about reduction since this is the end of Karchev's stack. We're doing a ton of work. I don't know what I must have just hit the... Oh, I think I was looking up his base strength here because I did grab and smash just to headbutt Karchev to get some extra damage in. And we do a little bit. I think it's like 4 damage that comes off of that one. Buying some more attacks into Karchev. Now since he's knocked down, we auto hit, and we're not coming up roses in terms of the damage on this one, but it's looking pretty good. That last roll was quite huge, and now on the last roll, we end up grabbing Karchev off the table with the brawler activation to spare. So I hope you enjoyed this battle report. Again, I need to apologize for the Signar snafu. This game was definitely a weird one for me because I really understood the threat ranges from both sides quite well, and it really put me in this position of trying to kind of dance back and forth and figuring out when to unpack and how to do it to kind of start these peace trades. And I think Karchev could have done it a little bit more efficiently instead of boxing his jacks up so much. But I think it's just fun to watch 2 big battle groups smash together, since I think most of us have started this game based on, you know, the big stompy robots and giant monsters fighting each other. The next video should have the Maddox battle report, as long as Peoria doesn't swallow up my package forever. I don't know quite what I'm going to match up into her yet, so you can leave a comment below with a caster or warlock that you would like to see, and I should be able to make something happen one way or the other. Playing against another person other than myself on this channel is looking at happening soonish. Wisconsin has lifted some of their restrictions, but for me, I'm still playing it pretty safe and trying to kind of keep to my own little bubble. So soon, but not too soon, for actually getting other people to mix it up with me on here, and then we can get to a more standard battle report with all these fun, cool traps being triggered and all that other fun stuff, because it won't just be me tricking myself into doing dumb things like killing an Earthborn when I'm trying to go in on a caster. I hope you enjoyed this battle report. I look forward to making the next one, and we'll see you in the next video.